As you know, I've been trying to isolate iron out of this sand here in the South Pacific, and it's really come to my attention that I'm simply not going to be able to get enough iron out of the sand to do anything meaningful as far as iron smelting, etc. So I'm going to have to come up with a different way. And I think this is the way. Pick this up on the beach. This probably adequately conforms to the dictionary definition of hematite, which is an iron ore. Classically, hematite is 70% iron, but my guess is this is less. I'm not sure. It's you can see it's in some sort of a sedimentary rock that clearly contains iron. You can see there's a lot of iron in the rock down here. Essentially what I'm baking are chunks of this stuff. If I'm going to make a bloomery, I'm going to need a lot of iron ore, and that stuff from the beach is not going to be enough. So I'm going to try preparing this to be smelted. I'll show you what you have to do. If you're going to smelt iron out of a piece of rock, you have to break it up fine, and I understand one of the first things you should do is put it in a fire and get it really hot. So we'll make it really hot and see if that makes it brittle, which is what it's supposed to do. It just occurred to me that I seem to spend an awful lot of time setting fire to things lately. This might worry my mother if she knew. This is that piece of rock after I cooked it. It's supposed to make it much more friable so you can break it into pieces, and it actually has done that. You can see it's really quite fragile now. So since that worked, I went ahead and got some more. And as you can see, again, it's very breakable. I'm going to go ahead and do this again. In fact, I'm going to keep doing this until I've got at least 25 pounds of this rock, because it's fairly clear I'm not going to get a significant amount of iron out of the black stuff in the water, so I'm going to have to get it out of rock. So I'm going to essentially wash, rinse, and repeat. So here's my first batch, if you will. It's very friable, like we want it to be. That comes from cooking it. The idea is we're going to have to get this close to powder if we're going to smelt it. It's really friable. It's easy to break. It's actually pretty easy to break before you cook it. The idea is that at some point you have to essentially powder this stuff if you're going to cook it in a bloomery. And the charcoal roasting is essentially in order to make it friable enough that you can break it easily. I don't feel the need to powder it here. I'll do that when I get it home, but I do want to get it into small enough pieces that it's easy to transport. So one of the other things that's occurred to me is that I'm going to produce an awful lot of ash here, because I'm going to be using a lot of charcoal, and that's got me thinking. So I'm actually not going to throw it away. I'm going to keep it, because I'm starting to have ideas, which of course is a bad idea in and of itself. You can see it breaks pretty easily before you cook it, and it really breaks easily after you cook it. And watch your eyes. I think you want to, I've decided to break it up a little bit before I cook it, so that the pieces are smaller and they can get hotter. like to think of myself as kind of making a small batch. Wow, that's hard. Like I'm making a small batch bourbon or vodka here. I'm going to go through a lot of charcoal this week. Just a quick peek midway through cooking. I threw a lot of charcoal on there, and frankly, it didn't catch very well. I think you can see one little tiny piece of rock sticking out, kind of right there. It's all pretty well covered up, which means I ought to be getting a good cook here. And there's a nice shot of batch number 1. I think that's probably a third to a quarter of what I need, so I'll be doing this daily for several days. This is my third and final cook of my iron ore. I'm kind of getting the hang of this. Essentially, I'm going to just make sure I've got a nice bed of coals ready to go. I'm going to lay that stuff in there, then I'm going to cover it up and just let it go until it's just gone. Also gotten a little better at breaking it up before I lay it on the fire, which seems to cook it better. It's got iron in it. I mean, that's completely clear. I just don't know how much iron it has in it. I don't know if this is actually iron ore or if this is just rock that's stained with iron. And I guess I won't know that until I actually try to work with it. Got to watch your eyes and your face when you're pulling a trick like this. I suppose facial disfigurement wouldn't be that huge a loss, but I do have a preference for vision. Well, there's my processed iron ore. I have a whole lot of it. I don't know, maybe 50 pounds. I'm going to wrap that up and take it back with me and see what I can do with it. It still needs some processing. I managed to break it up rather nicely just by cooking it, but it's not at the point where I could just throw it into a Blue Marie furnace and come out with iron. I'll still have to work on it a little more, but it's at the point where I can put it in the family Conestoga wagon and get it back home for more work. So I think I'm going to call this one an episode. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Tell your friends if you want. Got plenty more work to do with this iron, and also have this ash which I have saved because it occurs to me that I'm producing an awful lot of this stuff and it's actually a useful product. So we'll get to that at some point as well. I'm not done with the sand. I've still got other things I want to do, just not maybe my priority right at the moment. So thanks a lot and see you later.